Good morning to you and welcome to Penn Vicarage on this Wednesday morning. Lovely to see you. Hope you are well and cheerful. And as I can always say, thank you so much for joining us for our Bible talk for today, continuing our adventure, and it really is an adventure, isn't it, through the incredible book of Genesis. Today we're in chapter 42. If I may just remind you of the context, Joseph has been imprisoned in Egypt and he has been released from prison because Pharaoh, the man in charge, had some dreams that he couldn't interpret. Joseph had managed to interpret them thanks to the memories of a cupbearer who Joseph had helped by interpreting his dreams a couple of years before in prison. Joseph has come out, he's interpreted the dreams, told Pharaoh what the message of the dreams was, and Pharaoh has made him 2IC in the kingdom. So he goes from being sort of Hebrew foreigner in prison to being 2IC of a superpower in double quick time. And without further ado, we now have the preparation for what Joseph had predicted to happen, what God had said, that there were going to be 7 good years and 7 bad years. And as Joseph had managed to interpret the dreams, Pharaoh put him in charge of sorting it all out. And that's where we're at in chapter 42. So here goes, without further ado, Genesis 42, beginning at verse 1. When Jacob learned that there was grain in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why do you keep looking to one another? I have heard," he said, "that there is grain in Egypt. Go down and buy grain for us there, that we may live and not die." So 10 of Joseph's brothers went down to buy grain in Egypt. But Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he feared that harm might come to him. Thus the sons of Israel were among the other people who came to buy grain for the famine that reached the land of Canaan. Now Joseph was governor over the land. It was he who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed themselves before him with their faces to the ground. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them, but he treated them like strangers and spoke harshly to them. "Where do you come from?" he said. They said, "From the land of Canaan, to buy food." Although Joseph had recognized his brothers, they did not recognize him. Joseph also remembered the dreams that he dreamed about them. He said to them, "You are spies. You've come to see the nakedness of the land." They said to him, "No, my lord, your servants have come to buy food. We're all sons of one man. We are honest men. Your servants have never been spies." But he said to them, "No, you've come to see the nakedness of the land." They said, "We, your servants, are 12 brothers, the sons of a certain man of the land of Canaan. The youngest, however, is now with our father, and one is no more." But Joseph said to them, "It is just as I have said to you, you are spies. Here is how you have tested. As Pharaoh lives, you shall not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Let one of you go and bring your brother, while the rest of you remain in prison, in order that your words may be tested, whether there is truth in you, or else, as Pharaoh lives, surely you are spies." And he put them all together in prison for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "Do this and you will live, for I fear God. If you are honest men, let one of your brothers stay here where you are imprisoned. The rest of you shall go and carry grain for the famine of your households, and bring your youngest brother to me. Thus your words will be verified, and you shall not die." And they agreed to do so. They said to one another, "Alas, we are paying the penalty for what we did to our brother. We saw his anguish when he pleaded with us, but we would not listen. That's why this anguish has come upon us." Then Reuben answered them, "Did I not tell you not to wrong the boy? But you would not listen. So now there comes a reckoning for his blood." They did not know that Joseph understood them, since he spoke with them through an interpreter. He turned away from them and wept. Then he returned and spoke to them, and he picked out Simeon and had him bound before their eyes. Joseph then gave orders to fill their bags with grain, to return every man's money to his sack, and to give them provisions for their journey. This was done for them. They loaded their donkeys with the grain and departed. When one of them opened his sack to give his donkey fodder at the lodging place, he saw his money at the top of the sack. He said to his brothers, "My money has been put back. Here it is in my sack." At this they lost heart and turned trembling to one another, saying, "What is this that God has done to us?" When they came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him all that had happened to them, saying, The man, the Lord of the land, spoke harshly to us and charged us with spying on the land. But we said to him, "We are honest men. We are not spies. We are 12 brothers, son of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is now with our father in the land of Canaan." Then the man, the lord of the land, said to us, by this I shall know that you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers with me. Take grain for the famine of your households, and go your way. Bring your youngest brother to me, and I shall know that you are not spies, but honest men. Then I will release your brother to you, and you may trade in the land. As they were emptying their sacks, there in each one's sack was his bag of money. When they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were dismayed. And their father Jacob said to them, I am the one whom you breed for children. Joseph is no more, and Simeon is no more, and now you would take Benjamin. All this has happened to me. And Reuben said to his father, you may kill my 2 sons if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I will bring him back to you. But he said, my son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone is left. If harm should come to him on the journey that you are to make, you bring down my grey hairs with sorrow to Sheol. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. So, as God had said through the dream that Pharaoh had, and as Joseph had interpreted on God's behalf, the famine begins. And as Joseph, as you know, had used the 7 years before to kind of store stuff in barn houses, in storehouses, so that when the famine began, they'd be prepared. Anyway, a famine happens all over the whole area, including Canaan, where Jacob, which is Joseph's original family, were living, and so on. And things are really bad, and so they need food, and they hear there's food in Egypt, so they go down and investigate. And what we get is chapter 42 of Genesis. It's quite a difficult thing to say profound things about, but I guess I just want to say 3 things really. Firstly, it's just a blooming good story, isn't it? I mean, I say to people at baptisms, teach your children the stories of the Bible, because they're the best stories in the world anyway. You know, who can beat things like Noah's Ark and, you know, Jesus turning water into wine and David and Goliath, and these are just fantastic stories. And the Bible is just a blooming good read. And whatever you can get sort of spiritually out of this, it's just a great story, isn't it? I mean, you can make films out of this. No wonder Andrew Lloyd Webber made a film about it. It's just a blooming good read. And I think that's the first thing I want to say about the scriptures, is we can rejoice and revel in the wonders of the scriptures, because they are just a blooming good read. And it isn't it just a great story? I mean, it's on the edge of your feet, this is. You know, it's just a fantastic read. So I just want to say 3 cheers to the Bible, because it's just a great book and a great read, isn't it? So that's the first thing. Quite simple, just that. The second thing to say, I think, really, is about Joseph and why he treated his brothers so harshly. And all sorts of theories have been said, you know. I mean, Joseph could have been some great big wind-up merchant. I don't think so. I think at the end, really, Joseph was testing his brothers out to see what they were really like. I mean, they said to him that they were honest people. But let's not forget, the last time he had seen them, they had sold him into Egypt, into slavery. So they're now in Egypt looking for food and asking him to help them and saying that they're honest people. But let's be honest, Joseph knew better, because the last time he'd seen them, he'd been chucked into a pit and sold off, you know, and a cock and bull story being told to their father. So I think what's really going on here is that Joseph is testing them out, testing to say that they're true to their word, just testing whether they are or are not honest people, testing their love for their father, and testing their honesty and their integrity. You know, have they learnt anything through this experience? So I think what's really going on here is Joseph is kind of testing out what's really going on. But of course, you've got the tension here between the brothers, and they need food on the one hand. On the other hand, they know that there's this awful pain that their father, who's lost one favourite son already, he thought he'd lost Joseph, who's one of his favourite wife, Rachel, and he was in danger of losing his other beloved son of his beloved wife, Benjamin, and they're trying to look for food, but on the other hand, they're trying to look after their father and the pain and the grief that he still feels. On the other hand, you've got Joseph, who they don't recognise him, but he recognises them, and he kind of you know, he's talking to them, and he's being harsh with them. On the other hand, he kind of goes to a quiet place and has a good cry, because he knows who they are. And so feel the tension. And I think what's really going on here is Joseph is testing his brothers to see if they really are really good. But I think thirdly in this story, you kind of see what the purpose of the whole story was. You know, God did it in a sort of roundabout way. But God knew there was going to be a famine one day, and having Joseph in the right place at the right time actually saved a lot of lives. You know, if Joseph hadn't interpreted the dream, then there would have been a famine, and get the impression maybe thousands of people would have died. But Joseph being placed by God so accurately in the particular gift at that particular time was able to save a lot of lives, and that the famine was dreadful, but actually so it was mitigated quite a lot by having this godly man in the right place at the right time. And the whole purpose really was God was there to save lives, and what could have been an utterly calamitous famine was not as bad because the right godly person with the right gifts was in the right place at the right time. And I think we have to trust God, and we sometimes think, God, what are you doing? But to actually understand that God does know what he's doing. So 3 things briefly in this reading. Firstly, it is just a cracking good story, and it's a good read. Secondly, what Joseph is doing is testing the integrity of his brothers, compared with the last time he'd seen them when he sold them into Egypt. And thirdly, you can kind of see what God is doing through the whole story. God's, in his own mysterious way, putting the right person in the right place at the right time. My friends, God bless you. Have a lovely Wednesday. Enjoy watching. Do please share this message with your friends. Have a lovely day, and more tomorrow. And tomorrow, in Genesis 43, is my favourite Bible verse. More tomorrow. God bless you.